beauty industry, a racket, a cult, something that makes you feel glamorous and good. This book we're going to talk about today is called Rouge by Mona Awad. It has an interesting take on the beauty industry. I wouldn't even really say it's really so much about the beauty industry. It's about skincare and skincare products, which yes, they're beauty products, but it wasn't about the industry in general. The story follows this girl, Belle, and her mother, Noelle. Belle lives in Montreal and works in a dress shop, and her mother lives out in California and also works in a dress shop called Belle the Ball, named after her daughter. And her mother was super beautiful, movie star quality looks, and Belle always kind of felt like second fiddle and didn't feel like she was pretty enough. Her father was Egyptian, so she had darker skin and didn't feel up to ever being as pretty as her mother, so you have this whole weird dynamic of that. So she develops this like lifelong obsession with like skincare products and all of this stuff. It kind of stemmed from her mother and her mother's beauty. And so her mother passes away. She falls off of a cliff and onto these rocks by near where she lives. It was very tragic and sad. I think her mother was 61. Before she died, Belle felt like she was getting really weird and strange and kind of delusional, and she'd say words that she didn't mean to say. She'd be like, oh, I'm just so depressed. I mean, I'm dreamily happy, or, you know, stuff that was kind of off-kilter and weird, where she'd correct herself after saying these, like, kind of negative words and then switching over to something more positive, and it seemed like there was something up. And so there's a lot of, like, strange stuff that seemed to be in the conversations that Belle would have with her mother before she died. And so Belle goes to the funeral. She ends up staying in her mom's old house. And one night, she puts on her mom's old shoes and finds herself walking along the cliffside. She comes across this strange house, and it's got just all windows, and there's these big black ornate gates and these beautiful roses that are all around in the yard growing there. Oh, and what's strange, before she walks here, when she's at the funeral, or at the after thing at her mother's place, they have a gathering, everyone brings food, and then they talk and give their condolences. So she's there, and she breaks away and goes out on the balcony, and there's this lady, this beautiful lady, all in red, tells her she's sorry for her loss, or she just says she went the way of roses. And Belle thinks this is very strange, because her mother hated roses. In fact, she was allergic to them, so this seems a little off. But then these other people are like, Belle, Belle, and they want to talk to her and give their condolences. And then when she goes back to find the lady in red is gone. So let's come back to, she's in front of this house that has all these roses. As she walks up to these ornate black gates, they open up and she walks through as if in a dream, and up to the door. There's a lady in silver standing there, and she welcomes her in, and there's this wonderful gala or party going on with all these beautiful people, just the most beautiful people ever. And Belle's like, what is this place? And she sees over in the corner, there's this one area, it looks like there's all these beauty products with all these little ruby red jars that kind of glow. And she's like, oh, I wonder if it's a spa or some kind of establishment like that. And she had noticed those jars all in her mother's house. So mysterious and mysteriouser. This whole book, when I was reading it, it feels like you're in this underwater dream, just waiting to come up for air the whole time, because it's so surreal and so weird. And so she's at the house, and these people, you know, they're dancing and they're drinking this red champagne. It's like sipping stars. There's this woman up on the staircase in red, and she's got these two people next to her with these black veils over their faces, and she calls to her and has her come up there, and she's like, oh, daughter of Noelle, because she's the daughter of the mother that passed. And they talk, and she gets the vibe that this is some sort of beauty spa place, and they want to give her a treatment for free. And well, you know, she's had this obsessive regimen of skincare, and so she's totally into it. And her mother, when she had seen her last, whatever she was doing, her skin looked insanely young. She's like, wow, this must be where she was going. No suspicions of this place or anything, you know? A ton of red flags, everything is red, whatever, just ignore it all. It's all beauty and flash. and magic and delusion. It's such a fever dream, wild, weird book as she gets pulled into this almost like cult-like beauty delusion that is Rouge. Does she become one of these people? What are they doing to these people? What is a treatment? And they have also what they call the depths in this house, and it's this giant fish tank. And there's all these like red jellyfish that float around in the tank, and it's really weird. And she was standing and looking through the tank, and like all these other people were around it and so like enthralled with their own reflections. And like when she looked into her reflection, her skin looked perfect and all of that stuff. But then you would also catch flashes of like other people looking, but you would see them as older and with lines around their faces. And so there's all this just strange, weird stuff happening. And what is in the red bubbly that they are drinking? Because everything feels dreamlike. She comes to this party, she talks to this woman who was on the stairs, that was the woman that was at the funeral that said her mother went the way of roses, and it's all this crazy extravaganza. And you know, they want her to come back for a treatment. The next day she just wakes up back in her mother's place, doesn't remember how she got there, and has a semblance of an idea of going to this party and like how she just kind of randomly went there when she put on her mother's red shoes. And it's so freaking wild. There's a part of it where Belle, when she was younger, loved Tom Cruise. There was this man that she knew that she thought was Tom Cruise, and it's a big part of the story. There's been some people have said, yeah, this is kind of like Eyes Wide Shut, and maybe a little, and I guess maybe that's why, because Tom Cruise was very prominent in this book. At some point he takes over and he takes you on a wild ride. Where does it go? You need to read it to find out, so that at the end you can finally breathe again, because like I said, it's like a weird underwater dreamy state of mind, this whole book. I loved it. I thought it was great. I like the writing. I liked the weirdness. I liked how it really felt like you were in this spaced out dream state as you saw things through Belle's eyes. And it's frustrating because you're like, Belle, wake up. Wake up. Does she wake up? Well, you have to read the book to find out. So if you are a fan of weird fever dream type style of books, next video coming up will be about that. So stick around, check it out. And if you had fun hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.